Welcome to National Matters. I am your host, Pastor Moses Chiluba, the Senior Pastor of the Healing Word Ministries, and I'm privileged in the studio to be joined by Mr. Andrew Kamanga. Mr. Andrew Kamanga, welcome to the program, National Matters.
Thank you. Good evening, Pastor. And I'm so grateful to be here.
Amen.
Amen.
When we were advertising, people were saying we are going to talk about soccer, but it's not soccer. You are associated with soccer, but your profile is so rich that I didn't want to take minutes to tell the people who Mr. Kamanga is. But if you can look in that camera,
Yes.
and tell the people of Zambia and the world who Mr. Kamanga is.
Yes, thank you so much. Good evening, viewers. My name is Andrew Kamanga. I was born many years ago in Kabwe, I think about 53 years ago. I went to Broadway Primary School, where I did my grade 1 up to grade 7. And then from there I went to Kalonga Secondary School, where I was from Form 1 up to Form 3. And then I passed to go to Form 4, and I completed my Form 5 at Kalonga. And immediately I completed, I came to Lusaka, and everything else started happening from there. I think even before I got my Form 5 results, I was fortunate to get a job, because those days it was easy to get a job even without your Form 5 results.
I know.
So fortunately I had my first job at Bank of Credit and Commerce here in Lusaka. And then I worked there until I went to the university. That time it was University of Zambia, Ndola campus in Kitwe. They used to call it Unzando, but now it's called CBU.
CBU,
and
yeah.
I think along the way it became CBU. So I graduated from CBU with a degree in accounting, and immediately I graduated. My first job after university was with PricewaterhouseCoopers, where that time we were actually operating from the Heroes Square, which is, if you know where the former Finance Bank used to be, and the British Council. So we were in that.
Yes, yeah, okay.
Yes. And that's where our offices were. And then from Pricewaterhouse, I had an opportunity. My brother and my sister sent me abroad to go and do my professional accounting. So I trained as a chartered accountant. I did CIMA at Emil Wolf College in London. I came back in 1994, and I joined Meridian Bank. Unfortunately, the bank went down in 1995. And then from there, I moved on. I went to join KPMG in the consulting division. And I was grateful that we had a senior partner there by the name of Mr. Mwila Lombwe, who up to this day I remain indebted to, because he basically taught me how to open a consultancy firm. And then he took us through the processes. And then fortunately around 96 I moved on. I joined a company called ABB, which was basically an electrical engineering company involved in building transmission lines and substations for ZESCO. And I think it's from there that I got entangled in the energy sector. Then from ABB, when ERB was being set up, I moved on. I joined ERB as head of economic regulation. So I was basically responsible for setting the prices of fuel as well as ZESCO tariffs. And
So did you contribute to choking our necks?
By that time, ZESCO was just starting with the reforms in the energy sector.
Mm-hmm.
And then from about 2001, I saw an opportunity to go and set up as a consultant in energy and finance. So I partnered with a colleague of mine. We set up ENFIN, which was basically looking at energy and financial advisory. And then along the way, I think in 2007, I set up another company, Northwestern Energy, which was now involved in power distribution. And we started operating in October 2008. Initially in Lumwana, we were servicing the mine township houses and the non-mine lot.
Just let me hold you for a moment. How did you convert? Because what you are now in is more into engineering than accounts.
Okay.
How did you?
Yes, I think, again, along the way, I also did my master's. So I've actually got a master's of science. I will be very slow. I have a master's of science from the City University in London. So it's a master of science in energy, environment, technology, and economics. So essentially I have 4 degrees in one. So that is where, if you like, the engineering aspect also comes from. So I'm a chartered accountant as well as an economist, and I know a little bit about engineering. I can't claim to be an engineer. So
we'll come to that. I'm more interested in what you have brought. Probably I can convert from the pulpit to the...
No, I should join you on the pulpit. So just to finish off, we operated in Lumwana, and then along the way in 2013, we expanded into Solwezi as well as Kalumbila. So our operations now are in three different locations.
Solwezi,
Lumwana, and Kalumbila. And obviously, our involvement in the electricity distribution is we build and own and operate 33 kV lines. We also have 33 to 11 kV substations. We also have the 11 kV lines and then the 400 volts into the houses where we've put the prepaid meters. So it's basically performing a small function of what ZESCO does. And I think over the years, it's a business which has grown and it's fully operational. So that is really where I've come from. Of course, as a person, both my parents buried in Kabwe. From a family of 6, I'm the last born. Our eldest sister is here in Lusaka, but she worked for many years in Zambia Railways. My other brother is here. He was also a businessman for many years. I've got 2 other sisters. We've lost 1 brother, and I'm the last born. So I think growing up was quite a challenge in that everyone else was older than me. But what is interesting now is they are all very old. And they've stopped working, they've retired, so I'm the only one who's working. So
You know what the Bible says? The Bible says, the first shall be the last.
You've said it.
So that's what the Bible says. And now in Bemba there is a saying, I know from Eastern you are limited in expressing yourself.
No, in fact, I'll disappoint you because I'm married to a Bemba
You see, okay, it's not a disappointment because that success should have the connection from North.
Is that so?
For an Easterner to succeed, there must be a Bemba
No point.
somewhere.
So
But
I'm,
never, yeah,
I'm married to a Bemba woman.
we are so thankful.
And then her name is Maureen Kawimbe. We've got 4 children, 2 girls and 2 boys. And then, of course, from the family point of view, I think I'm one of those who've come from a big family in your typical African setup.
Absolutely.
And then, of course, my other side of my life is I'm quite active. Maybe one day I can also sit where you are sitting and pastor. Maybe one day.
Well, talk to me.
Growing up in Kabwe again, I grew up in a church environment. I was baptized in the United Church of Zambia at All Saints in Kabwe in 1981. I even remember the date. It was 12th July. But what was interesting is that when I was in the church, I was part of the Boys Brigade. So I grew up in that environment. And many years later, I think when I went to work in Dola in 2012, I was there for about 2 years. I was running Zambezi Portland Cement as a consultant. So I used to congregate at UCZ Main Masala. Then one day I was approached by the church that they needed a person to represent the Boys Brigade as a national patron. So our current synod bishop was the Presbytery bishop in the Copper Belt, the Bishop Chilima. He's actually the one who inducted
That's our father.
Yes. So I also serve as the national patron for the Boys Brigade in Zambia. So that is another leadership position,
I'm telling you.
which I think I'm very happy with, because between football and the church one is more quieter. So if you ask me, I think there's more peace doing God's work.
Okay.
Yes.
We will take a short break, Mr. Kamanga. When we come back, we start from football.
Okay.
And then we go to where you are.
All right.
Keep watching Kamne TV, and remember, Kamne TV is not just another channel. We'll see you after the break.
Msika is here. We have you all covered with just 150 kwacha. You can advertise every day from 17 hours to 18 hours. For a 30-second ad, get the benefit of selling your products and services on Msika. For more details, call our marketing department on +260 953 995099 +260 962 444 726 or +260 971 177 467. Email us on info@camnettvafrica.com. Terms and conditions apply.
This is Camnet TV World News. For a prompt response, call +2609 53 995 099 or +260 444 726 or +260 711 77467. Camnet TV, not just another channel.
Welcome back to National Matters. I'm your host, Pastor Moses Chiluba, and in the studio with me is my guest, Mr. Andrew Kamanga. You know him from the first point of view, and today you know him better. And those of you that have been with us from the beginning of the program, you've got the sense of where we are going. It's good to know that you were at Broadway. I left Broadway in 1976. I was at Broadway Primary School. So those are commonalities that we have. At least being first president, I have some similarities with you. Broadway, President Chagwalungu, John Howard, Chawama, Jack, that's where we got. Now I'm associated to presidents.
By the small one. Yeah.
Mr. Kamanga, let's get into this. You are the first president. When were you elected into office?
Well, I was elected on 20th March 2016.
2016.
2016, and we were due to have elections again this year on 28th March. But unfortunately, we had two issues. One was the COVID, and then there were some members who were not happy with the electoral process, so they went to court and got an injunction. So we've just gone through the process of having that resolved. I think we've agreed that going forward, FIFA will come and deal with whatever electoral disputes that could be there. And then we'll continue with the elections.
Let me ask, how many years are you supposed to serve as FIFA?
Well, one term is 4 years.
And you can go for another term?
In the Constitution, I think currently you have a 3-term limit. So
which
that's
is 12
the maximum. Yes.
I would favor that because I can't finish my vision in 4 years. And I think whoever came up with 3 terms had the interest of soccer in mind.
Yeah, but also just to give background, again, like you said, there's always misinformation. Others have wrong information, but I can also give my football background.
But before you give the football background, you said there are contentions or misunderstandings.
Yes.
With who and between who?
Well, I think arising from the electoral process, because we had to run an electoral process, but some of our members who felt that they were not happy with the outcome, because, for instance, now there's a requirement from 2015 within FIFA that all the affiliates should have in their constitution a requirement for an integrity test. Now, here we obviously amended our constitution in 2017, and we were running the elections for the first time with the new constitution.
The integrity test.
With the integrity test. Now, obviously, others felt that this integrity test was just inserted in the constitution to target 1 or 2 individuals, and it's from there that the matter ended up in court.
So, put me in the clear and the Camnet TV viewers out there. Is there anything wrong with integrity? Because the Bible says, my integrity shall preserve me. If I'm going to be a pastor, if I'm going to be a president of the nation, a minister, integrity is the one component you can't throw away. Well, there is no way, whichever office you are running for. It
applies even just as a person.
Yeah.
I think it should be a minimum standard. But the unfortunate part was that, for instance, my predecessor had some issues with FIFA. I think he got a FIFA ban, And
Is this Kalusha?
yes. And then obviously he expressed interest to stand in the elections. And unfortunately, he couldn't go past that same integrity test. Now, to those who obviously supported him coming back, they felt strongly that this was just a clause which had been inserted targeting him so that he's disqualified. But unfortunately, these are standard clauses, whether it's in FAS, CAF, even in FIFA.
For how long was he president?
He was, first of all, he was vice president for 4 years, and then he was president for 8 years. So he's basically...
That is 12 years.
12 years. And of course, before that, he was a national team coach. He was also technical director. So give or take, on the administration side, 14 years. And he's played for the national team for a long time, 20 plus years. So obviously, people see these things differently. I've never played professional football, but I've been involved on the administration side from very early on in the 90s. I was involved with City of Lusaka. At some point, I got involved with Quito United. But my main club, Kabwe Warriors, kept calling until about 2007 when I decided to join the executive. And then I stayed there until about 2015.
Now, you see, I don't want to remain with questions in my mind. I know Kalusha is not here. You would have been the right person to ask. But what is wrong with you or him working with you, not as president in the advisory? You don't have the advisory board where he can serve to just give guidance?
Well, I think it's always a case of, football is quite wide. And you can serve in different portfolios. Even myself, I've given you an example. I've served as a committee member in different executives. I was chairman for Kabwe Warriors. I've been elected in FAS. Even when I leave FAS, I'm already thinking about how I'll continue contributing to football. You showed me the facilities here. One of the things I'm looking at when my time in FAS is over, is that I want to go and invest in a school where boys and girls can go to school during the day, and then in the afternoon they can play football. So that is what I'm looking at. So away from being FAS president, I want to continue contributing to the development of the game from that perspective.
What has the government said about the wrangles that you've been having? Can't they make a decision to say, look, give a chance to your friend, let him run? Can't they do as a mother body?
Well, I think government is a stakeholder, yes. But as you would expect, we do have a constitution. But I think ever since we came into office, we've always had a very good relationship with the government, even now, to get to a point of resolving the current wrangles. I think we give credit to our able Minister of Sport, Honorable Mlenga. I think he's provided leadership to a point where we've now reached agreement that we'll have a meeting with FIFA, and whatever will be resolved from there, we'll now see everyone moving forward. So I think government continues to have a bigger voice in what we do.
Before we go to other departments in FIFA, in soccer, could it be that the post of a president, there is a lot of money, which when I join also I may build a mansion? Please update me. You may never know, I can aspire for it. Why is it that people have to fight for it? And
I didn't answer one question. I think you asked me about whether I could work with my predecessor. And again, it was in 2017. No, 2018, because I went to Ghana with Patson Daka. He had been nominated to be the Young Player of the Year for CAF. So we met in during that time, and I think Kalusha was serving in CAF. I approached him. I remember that day. I approached him and I said, "Look, we are now looking to launch our own copper brand as Fuzz. So would you be in a position to come and support that initiative?" Because obviously he's more to the public. I think he's got this persona. So it's a lot easy for him to be on a billboard, and that is who he is. And like my face, very few people know me. If anything, I operate more from the background than from the front line. So we had a conversation, and I said, "Look, this is a good initiative, which obviously was a commercial arrangement, and we wanted him to be our brand ambassador so that he could obviously take the brand of Fuzz forward. Because again, as you said, that is one way in which he could contribute without necessarily being president of the FA. But to answer the question, the role of a president is really like a board chairman. So the day-to-day activities are managed by the secretariat, headed by the general secretary, who's the CEO, and that is a full-time employee of Fuzz. So ourselves as executive, we only meet once a month, and then of course, if you talk about, it's not a full-time job. So it's a part-time job where you only get 3,000 kwacha every time you have a sitting. So it's not a job you can do without having a livelihood elsewhere. So it's really a part-time job. But of course, maybe what has happened over the years is that the job has been put in the front line, and yet football, for all intents and purposes, we should be seeing the footballers more than the administrators. And I think I look forward to a day when the position of Fuzz president will be less contentious, it will be more quieter, and people will just look at it as an office job rather than being in the newspaper every day. There's a quarrel here, it's always about fighting. I think we've completely misrepresented the position. Because if you ask me, today if I ask anybody, an average Zambian, who's the president of the Brazilian football, nobody knows. Who's the
Even
president?
South African president,
Nobody
the one
knows.
in charge of football,
But if you ask who's Neymar, everybody, the whole world knows who Neymar is, because he's the number 10
And who
for
is the Messi,
he's the number 10 for Brazil. So even here, we need to get to a point where Patson Daka, Fashion Sakala, Enoch Mwepu are the faces,
stars of-
the stars, because they are the ones who are associated with football. Even the clubs, they've got chairmen, but half the time you not know who the chairman of a club is.
Absolutely.
So we really need to change, slowly put this position in the back burner. Maybe if we do that, even the so-called drangos will come to an end, because it will no longer be attractive. And it's not really about the popularity contest. So,
But for me, Mr. Kamanga, if you ask me, I am disappointed with the way Zambia has performed over the years.
Yes.
Remember when Godfrey Chitalu was playing soccer I used to carry his bag and take it to the stadium when we were boys in the 72, 73 thereabout.
I did the same.
You did the same?
Yes.
He lived up Paliapa Ridge side. We were
Nkana Street.
That's right. We were in 10 Zambezi Avenue there.
Okay, we were in Imansa.
You see now. So I know what soccer can be. And just when I became pastor, he used to call me.
Okay.
He would call me, Pastor, come and pray for us.
In fact, you've got some resemblance. Maybe you're related.
With the late Godfrey.
Yes.
So he used to call me and he would say, Pastor, I remember this time. He just said, Pastor, we are coming to play this BP Cup at Independence
Yes.
with Nkana. And he called me. I went in the dressing room with my wife, prayed for Cabo Warriors because that has been my team.
Okay.
And I prayed for them. And when we were coming out, I was met by Brighton Sinyangwe,
Yes.
who was, and Smwala.
They were the coaches from Nkana.
They were coaches for Nkana.
Yeah.
So he stands there and he says, but Pastor, what kind of a pastor bakapatulula? Mwapepera fiati bawine kanshi twalaba sepa. Twalaba sepa pa kuti mwishi bati na ifwele sala tumfame. But I remember that time, Cabo Warriors won by 2 goals.
Okay.
You know, so my prayers were vindicated. Not that I didn't pray for Nkana, because he called me.
Yes.
And the last time he called me was when Zambia was playing at the Independence Stadium.
Right.
Prayed for him, and he says, Pastor Kutuleya, we'll bring the cup. I'll bring the boys to your church. So they flew to Mauritius. From there, they died in Gabon. And I
yes.
never saw him again.
Okay.
But I prayed with him. So you can see that link. This is why even when people are playing, I just say, Baka Warriors, but Division 1, I'm premium, because Zambian soccer. But the bottom line is, you mean as administrators, we have failed to put Zambia where it belongs? Like you are saying, I think we want to project the names of administrators than putting focus on the boys.
Correct.
Because if you have a vision to bring those boys up, Zambia is a great footballing nation.
Without taking anything away from what you've said, Pastor, again, just putting it in context, if you look at where our football is, and we've been going to the Africa Cup for 55 years. We've been in the final 3 times, 1974, 1994, and 2012. And we've only won the cup once.
My goodness.
In the same period, our colleagues have achieved a lot more. Egypt have got 7 titles. Cameroon have got 5. Ghana have got 4. Nigeria have got 3. Even our neighbors, Congo, if you recall, we played them in 1974.
Yeah.
They've got 2 titles. And of course, we are sitting at the bottom with one cup, which we won in 2012.
And they kept it for 1 year.
Yeah, of course. We need to understand the context, how we ended up being successful. And that 2012 team was created around 2007 because we had a team going to the World Cup at under 20. And they played together over a long period of time. By the time they were getting to 2012, they had had a lot of experience and they were really worthy champions. But of course, the challenge which was there was that we did not manage that success. Now, immediately after 2012, 2013, we lost the championship. We were out in the first round. 2015, we lost in the first round. 2016, when we came, we were just in the middle of the qualifier. In fact, the day we got elected on Sunday, we had 2 games on Wednesday and Saturday against Congo Brazzaville back to back. And those 2 games were very crucial. Now, we didn't do well. So as a result, we drew at home in Ndola and drew away in Congo. And we were technically out of the 2017 Africa Cup. 2019, unfortunately, we didn't do well. With the same team, we were out. Now, this is where the challenge has been. So if you ask an average soccer fan, they will tell you Kamanga has totally failed. Because when we came in, we've never been to the Africa Cup. We've missed out twice. Now, what we are saying, and this is what we've done, when we came in, we realized that the problem we were facing needed a different approach. Now, if you're going to build a house, you don't put the roof first. You have to concentrate on the foundation. I think this is where we started from. We said, okay, fine, let's go to the basics. What do we need to do? Let's deal with the under 17, under 20. Under 17, 2016, we went to the tournament, the COSAFA tournament in Mauritius. We didn't even play. We were disqualified. And the reason was age cheating. And I'm being very honest.
Yeah.
So these are things which people obviously always gloss over, but that's a fact. So the first thing, at under 17, you are disqualified. Then we said, okay, under 20, we were playing in December. We had a good team. They won the COSAFA. And then 2017, we were going to host the Africa Cup for the under 20 for the first time. So we prepared the team adequately, sent them to Spain. They came back. They played some of the best football we've ever seen in a long time. And the end result, they were champions. They won Africa Cup under 20 for the first time. And the same team qualified to go to the World Cup at under 20, where they did very well. We sent them back to Spain for training. They went to the World Cup and finished in the top 8 for the first time in the history of the country. Then, of course, that team was graduated to under 23. Coming back to under 17, arising out of the disqualification, we went back and said, okay, what do we do? We now had to assemble a new team. And for the first time in 2017, we won COSAFA under 17. So we now had 2 championships at under 17 and under 20.
Under 20.
And then suddenly we didn't have an under 20 team because the one which was there was moved to under 23. So we said, fine, let's take the young boys. Even though they're under 17, let's throw them in the deep end. They went and played under 20 and they lost in the first round. We were condemned. But the following year in 2018, they improved, finished in the 3rd position. Last year, they were champions at under 20. So the same team, in 2017, they are champions at under 17. In 2019, they are champions at under 20. So it means now our system is working. The under 23 qualified to the Africa Cup. Of course, they lost in the first round, but we continued on that path. So our focus has been to build from the bottom, invest in the grassroots, get as many young players out, and I think that's what we've been working on. Where we are now, we are in a strong position. If you look at our qualifications, we've qualified to CHAN in 2018 with the local team. We've qualified 2020. We've also won COSAFA Senior. So in 2019, in the region, we had participated in 5 tournaments. And we participated in 6 COSAFA tournaments. And we played in 5 of the 6 finals. And we took away the under 17, under 20, and the senior on the men's side. The women, senior women, we were second. Under 20, we were second. Under 17, we were third. So it means now our backbone is very, very strong. And going forward, this year we brought a new coach who's obviously quite ambitious. And if you look at his approach, he's now able to pick from the under 17, under 20, under 23 to create the Chan team and also refresh the senior team. So this is the path that we've now taken to reinvigorate the team. Of course, for the soccer fan, everything I've said here is not making sense. We just have to
have to win.
No, we just have to qualify to Africa Cup. But you see, qualifying to Africa Cup is one thing. And this is why if you look at where we want to go now, we've now developed a 10-year strategic focus where we are saying in the next 10 years, we should at least go to 5 Africa Cups. We should now be ambitious enough to win our second Africa Cup, our third one, and then also go to the World Cup. We've never been to the World Cup.
No, we've never.
So in the next 10 years, we'll have an opportunity to compete in 3 World Cups, but at least we should qualify to 2. So this is where now, if we had put in a structure in 2012, where we were now looking at the future, it would have been easy for us to manage that success arising from the 2012 championship.
What my wife says, normally says, Mr. Kamanga, because she's a soccer fan, together with my wife, myself, she says, why can't we suspend soccer for at least 6 years? We don't go anywhere. We just start training and grooming the boys. You know, we just suspend because it's so frustrating where you go this way, you go that way. And I think what you are doing, it's a very good system. Because if you don't have structures from the boys, foundation is very important, as you said.
Correct. So we just need a little bit of patience, but I think we are there. And I can share with you, if you look at our current under 17 team, that team has actually got a lot of potential. They are probably better than, in relative terms, than the team which won Africa Cup at under 20 in 2017. I mean, because a lot of people have never seen those boys, but they've conquered COSAFA, and even this year they're in contention. So if we continue investing, and by the way, we've got about 7 of them who are already earmarked to join some teams in Europe. So you can see our biggest challenge has been we've had very few players going abroad to compete at the highest level. And I think if we can fix that, get as many of our young players, because even the time you were talking about the days of Kalusha, Charles Muson, Stone Nyirenda, Lucky Musiska, Johnston Wade, they were all playing in Europe in competitive leagues. Yeah. But today, if you just take out Fashion Sakala, Enoch Mwepu, Patson Daka, you end there. And yet, if we are going to compete in against the best in Africa, if you face Egypt, you are going to play against Mo Salah, who's playing in Liverpool. If you are going to play Algeria, you face Mahrez, who plays for Man City. If you are going to play Senegal, you have to face what's his name?
Mane.
Sadio Mane, who plays in Liverpool. But where are our players? So we really need to have a structure where we can get our young players into those competitive leagues as quickly as possible, so that with that right exposure, we can continue building the strong team. So this is about patience, but we will get there.
When you call the members of the public who come and vote for you, we need the...
No, they will not vote for me.
We will need the structure. Me personally, I am very patient, Mr. Kamanga. I know where I've come from. What you are talking about, an institution, business, and anything without foundation,
Correct.
you are done. If you see this Camnet TV, Mr. Kamanga, when I told the team, I said, let's start Camnet TV. We only had 2 cameras. And then I flew to Hong Kong. I bought 1 camera. And the Camnet TV has been running on those basic principles, but the foundation is solid.
Yeah.
And when you see the news we are bringing out there, it's one of the best. And now we are aiming at going after Al Jazeera, BBC, and all this, because we've got what it takes. We have the foundation.
Yeah.
So a house, like you said, without the foundation, especially as Zambians, we are into the winning mode, but we don't know what it takes
And also,
to win, and the investment.
Even from business, like I said, I started business with just a computer. Because
Now, don't go there, because I want to ask you there. And time is flying fast. Let's get a short break, just a short break, then we get into that. Fuzz behind.
Okay.
We'll vote for you. Thank you, Mr. Director.
Msika is here. We have you all covered with just 150 kwacha. You can advertise every day from 17 hours to 18 hours. For a 30-second ad, get the benefit of selling your products and services on Msika. For more details, call our marketing department on +260 953 995099 +260 962 444 726 or +260 971 177 467. Email us on info@camnettvafrica.com. Terms and conditions apply.
This is Camnet TV World News. For a prompt response, call +2609 53 995 099 or +260962444 726 or +2609711 77467. Camnet TV, not just another channel.
And I remember my first assignment, I was given 2 jobs by Zambia Sugar. And from there, I started slowly. It took time. I think the first 3 years were quite difficult. It wasn't easy. But slowly, I was able to start getting assignments. And along the way, I specialized in that area. And it became very easy. So, for instance, when Equinox were coming to set up Lumwana Mine, they hired me as their consultant. So I was involved in sorting out their tax issues, their investment advisory issues, negotiating agreements with the government, negotiating these power supply agreements with ZESCO. And I think even this Northwestern Energy was born out of just a casual conversation. Because I had negotiated the power supply agreement for the mine. And then they completely forgot about the power for the township. So we sat down and then they said, look, can we go back to ZESCO and renegotiate? And then I said, but you've got a very good deal. Now, if you are going to renegotiate, you are going to open yourselves up for missing out on what you have. Then they said, okay, fine, but what other options do we have? So casually I said, well, why don't you give me a concession? And then I'll go and raise the money. I'll build the infrastructure, and then we'll put the prepaid meters in the houses. And then I said, okay, it sounds like a good idea. So that's how we started that conversation, until we got to a point where we now had to do the engineering drawings, and then we had to raise money. Fortunately, we raised our first funds from FMO, which is the Dutch Development Bank, because I had been involved in raising funds for the mining investors. So at that time, I had the likes of Vedanta, KCM, Equinox, and then along the way, I also did some work for First Quantum, who obviously ran Kansanshi Mine, and that's how we find ourselves in Kalumbila. So the long and short end is that I've been involved with almost all the big projects that have happened in Zambia in the last 20 years. Not too long ago, I was advising Nava Bharat when they were doing the privatization of Mamba Mine. I was involved in negotiating their power supply agreement to set up the thermal power plant in Mamba. I've also been involved in Zambezi, Portland Cement. I've also been involved with Dangote. So it's a whole range of...
You know, Mr. Kamanga, what I like, the point you've brought, I think I spent many more weeks with my wife laboring to tell the people that we were born for greatness. And the point you've brought, that you don't need the money to start the business.
Correct.
Because even if you give $1 million to somebody who has no ideas, no vision, that will end up in cars, it will end up in other things.
And also, we need a lot of patience. Because, for instance, I can tell you, we've been running the power company for the last 12 years. It's only now that it's showing some profit. Now,
for 12 years.
Yeah. You have to wait. Of course, there are these quick fixes. You get a government contract here. But you see, the challenge you have is it's not sustainable. So business also comes with its own requirements. Like you said, integrity, you need patience. You also need to nurture it. Say, it's like a baby. You are born, you have to be seen to grow, you mature. Now we are at a point where we are looking for investors to come in, because we are now saying, yes, we've been doing this for the last 12 years. We are now looking to go into power generation. We want to invest in our own generation, so that we grow the business even more. But to do that, we need partners who can also come to the party.
Mr. Kamanga, I want to ask a question. You've mentioned the government. You know, I, for one, am grateful that God has exposed me to go around the world as a preacher, but there is nothing that gives me joy than to know that I'm a Zambian.
Correct.
Even when the economy is not doing well, I know that there is a God who can turn things around.
Correct.
Now, that said, this Northwest Power Corporation, it's Zambian, isn't it?
Yes.
And it was founded by you.
Indigenous.
How much support do you get from the government? Because I believe that even as the president is watching, the Minister of Energy or whatever, I'm not lobbying for you. I didn't know you were this deep in this. But you see, my view is that whether you belong to this party, that party, forget about your background. In the spirit of nationalism, the government and the people who are in leadership should be able to identify, we have Mr. Kamanga there. Instead of calling somebody from Beijing or from some Asian country or what, first and foremost, it's you. How much cooperation do you have with the government? Or are you too shy to just go and knock and say, Mr. Energy Minister, I need some assistance?
Well, I think I can answer it in broad terms. Because, yes, you are right. The role of government is to facilitate. Now, government equally has a responsibility to its citizens. I've given you a catalogue of the investors I've worked for. And what typically happens is you are hired, and then at the end of the assignment, you are given a paycheck. And that's the end. After that, nobody will ever come and talk to you. And yet, if you look at all these projects that I've been involved with, I don't think we can fail as Zambians. We don't have Zambian investors in the mining sector. We are exceptions in the power sector with CEC. And with your permission, I would want to also talk a little bit about how government can empower citizens using the power sector so that we move away from this big ZESCO and now start thinking of how do we now bring this asset to more Zambians so that we create opportunities. I mean, we are just one small element, but if we had 10, 20, 30, 50 Zambians, and the economy is now anchored on local investors, believe me, a day will come when we don't need the foreign investors. Because at the end of the day, like I said, what government should be saying, yes, we've got the citizens' economic empowerment, but that's really for small-scale business. What are we doing for the big businesses? If you look at Zambia today, we talk about mining. But if you look at the mining industry, in the strictest sense, all the mines are owned by private investors. There are no Zambians who...
But do you think, as Zambians, we can run mines like ZCCM? Can a Zambian, assuming you were given ZCCM, I'm just speaking
no, in fact,
hypothetically.
give me ZESCO because that's what I'm familiar with.
Yes.
Even ZCCM. But
if you were given like ZESCO, you can turn it into a profitable venture, isn't it?
of course, this is why I've been involved in the energy sector for the last 25 years. And I think this I've openly shared even with the leaderships that we've had, whether it's from President Chiluba, President Mwanawasa, President Banda. Unfortunately, I never had the opportunity to engage late President Sat. But I've also chatted with the current President, His Excellency, President Lungu, on how we can use the energy sector to create more Zambian businessmen. And these are very possible ways. But you see, there's an element of protectionism because people look at ZESCO as this big company. But I think we have an opportunity to create, of course, if you talk to the Minister of Energy, he will tell you, even a few weeks ago I was talking to him, he was saying, look, we've got the updated Electricity Act, we've got the Energy Act, and these allow for private sector participation. Yes, on paper, they are saying that. But what practical steps are we taking?
I'll tell you something, Mr. Kamanga. One crime I've committed in this nation is to express my views. 2 weeks ago, I was with His Excellency, the President, speaking to him about this farming idea which we have, which we believe that it will be a game changer to the nation. But you have that idea of the energy sector. The problem I've found is that, okay, let me talk personally. When I sat there with the president, with my team for 1 hour, 30 minutes, he was very attentive. At the end of our presentation, we even gave the presentation on a chart. The president simply said, I'll support the local investor.
Yeah.
And it's on record. But you see, sometimes I feel the people around and in the system, they would not want you to succeed.
Well, I'll give you an example.
You are not going to bring this one and that one there. Your papers want to go through. I can tell you that. And those are the problems Africa faces.
In fact, I'll give you an example. Like I said, because of football, a lot of people don't even know my other side of what I do. Now, on the football side, it's been very, very interesting because, for instance, I've been labeled that I belong to the opposition. Meanwhile, I'm not a politician. I've got nothing to do with politics. I don't even belong to a political party. But if you talk to anybody who's involved in football, oh, these are with the government, these are opposition. And yet, when you look at football itself, we are all there to save the government of the day. And there's no way that we should. But the same point you're making, if you are labeled, you belong this side, it means you are now the enemy of the state. But in any case, why shouldn't we be saying, political affiliations aside,
what is the national agenda?
We are all Zambians. Zambia belongs to all of us. We can have differences. This one can support that. Even in churches. I belong to UCZ. You've got your church. Each one has got their own church. But everyone feels comfortable where they want to go and congregate.
But for me,
we speak
Mr.
to the
Kabanga,
same God.
I can tell you, depending on which sermon I bring, I've been labeled to all parties. One Sunday I preach this, they say Nikateo. Another Sunday I preach this, Nava Mushta Pastor. So I'm used to those things. They come, but that comes from cheap minds.
Correct.
I must tell you.
And
it comes from cheap minds.
In fact, you've hit the nail on the head. I wouldn't even say cheap mind, because we've lowered our standards. If you look at some of us who grew up in the Kaunda era, you know, there was order in everything we did.
Absolutely.
From primary school, everything was in an orderly way. Even the time we went to university, I got my scholarship, but I was told, oh, before you get your papers, go into that room, go and get your UNIP card. And that's what it was all about. Even in university, the politics we understood, we had to read the Communist Party Manifesto, we had to read about Karl Marx. So those are the things which we grew up with. Of course, democracy is very good, but to a certain extent, it also brings some element of indiscipline, because you need to strike the right balance.
And the division.
Correct. Now, we've not matured as a people to accept a difference of opinion, because even here where I am, whatever I've said about how we can reform the energy sector, I'll be labeled that I'm driving a particular agenda. And yet, we are not saying collectively as Zambians, what do we need to do?
But let me tell you, Mr. Kamanga, hear it from me as your pastor. Don't apologize for being a visionary. Don't apologize for being a visionary. Your success does not please anyone out there, everyone. There are people who like you because they are your friends. I'm sitting down with you here, I'm privileged. I just see you from first pages and all this, even that confusion you have in FAS. I stopped reading the newspapers and following it up because my Bible tells me very clearly, be careful of what you hear.
Yeah.
So I'm very selective.
Right.
If there are matters of divisions, I don't want to follow them. So those people who say you are UPND, you are MMD, you are this, don't mind them. There is a saying in Bemba. I wanted to tell you some Bemba words because we are so rich in our language.
I probably speak better Bemba than the Bembas themselves.
That's right, because you grew up in somewhere. You know, in Bemba we say, "Uwa ingira mushitu, tomfa nswaso."
Correct.
Once you start doing, I can tell you something. My wife and I, just being on this station, you would think that maybe even this pastor will be happy that a fellow pastor has a TV station which is dominating and going out there. Oh no. Others could even be praying to say it doesn't suit Pastor Chiluba unless that bishop, unless that. So this syndrome in Zambia, it must come down. It must come down. I am so glad. By the grace of God, I'm just speaking by faith. The president has personally told me he watches this station a lot with Mayova Esther. And if he's watching at this time, I would say that you deserve to be recognized. Why should we be singing about Dangote, Bill Gates?
Correct.
If we took a Miadi Savant, our own, who is going to talk about a Kamanga owning an electricity company
And employing
distributing
people.
and employing people? Why do we talk about other people? You know, so for me, Mr. Kamanga.
And we need more. Because you see, the more we have Zambians doing what we are doing, I think this country will be set for greatness. But we need to agree. And I think all these things require decisive leadership. And the leadership, as you said, has to be backed by the vision. It has to go with the legacy. And then they should be saying, okay, I was in leadership. I created 10 Zambian US dollar millionaires, now 100. And that's what we should celebrate success. I think this is where we seem to be lacking.
Do you know that, Mr. Kamanga, just like you are saying in energy, I came to learn that there are no Zambians who own these safaris.
No.
The safaris. I went there, attended a meeting. That time our Vice President, Guy Scott, was there. I was so shocked that even these people who shoot
Hunting,
animals,
yes.
to be given a license, there is only one Zambian with that license.
Correct.
But the ones who shoot the animals are pilots, some are managers, because when you take the people like Serena Williams, you go and shoot a lion, they will give you probably $100,000, $200,000. And the government doesn't see that.
True.
They have not gone in there to say, excuse me, who are the hunters here? There's only one Zambian. The rest are foreigners, whites for that matter. You mean that needs somebody to go to university? You know?
But to bring it back again, the reason why I give football as an example, I love the vision we've come up with, because we are saying we can use football as a tool for economic development. And why do I say so? We have the opportunity to deal with infrastructure. We have the opportunity now to get as many of our players to be outside the country. And what will happen is, for argument's sake, if we had even 100 Zambian players earning a little bit of foreign exchange, when it comes to remittances, they will be sending more money. These young players now are building houses, they are going into businesses. But you see, that is the other side of the economy.
The same money you talked about is built a big hospital.
Yeah.
From where he comes from. Eto has built a big hospital. George Weah is now a president.
Correct.
You know, so I believe with all my heart that one day, Mr. Kamanga, this cadalism rubbish will come to an end. We must look at people with their merits.
Yeah.
What you can do, not everyone can do that.
Yeah, but
You
also even the same cadreism you've referred to. If we created an environment and we created jobs, there will be no need for cadres.
This is
because everyone will be kept busy.
with
The
their
only
own,
reason why people are connecting, it's because the opportunities are very limited. But also, speaking broadly, if we are going to move this country forward, yes, I gave an example of having come from an environment of the Kaunda time where it was useful for you to go to school. When you finish, you get a job from working. You have to retire. You retire, you go to the farm. But today, you don't even have to wait
to
become a businessman. Straight from college, university, you can start a small business. And that's what we need to encourage. One person has a business, they will start employing other people. It's a spiral effect. This idea of thinking that government will create 500,000 jobs, 1 million jobs, yes, they can, but they also have limitations.
Absolutely.
What we should be saying is, how can we use the private sector as the basis on which we can create internal jobs?
In fact, for me, Mr. Kamanga,
because not everybody can be a civil servant.
You just hit the nail on the head in our earlier discussion when you were talking about yourself. I always say that politicians are messing up with our minds, because when they start saying, we'll create so many jobs, and you are campaigning to become a leader on the promise that you will create 2 million jobs, where will you get it from if the Zambians are not empowered?
Correct.
Because this Camnet TV, right now, it's a small station. We have got 23 journalists, 23 people that are working with us from the church side and from the journalist point of view. And those small 23, that small number, it will grow.
Correct.
One day we look forward to be like CNN.
Indeed.
We are creating jobs. We are not foreigners. So if we are not backed by the government, if you are not backed by the government, who are you going to back? So I think for me, like you said, leadership, sometimes they say, Pastor Chuba, you are hard. I know what I want to get out of life. If Zambians, the president is listening, the ministers, the PS, and all this, you deserve to be supported, Mr. Kamanga. But the problem is, again, in Africa, let me speak this for security reasons, in Africa, if you can't promise me $10,000 for this contract, I won't give it to you.
That's where the integrity also comes.
Yes, I would rather give it to a Malawan because I know when I visit Lilongwe,
I'll get something.
That kind of thing. Let's squeeze in some calls. I know we have been disturbed by the breaks, but let's squeeze in the calls. We are on Facebook, we are on YouTube, we are on Zoom, we are on name it, all the social platforms. You can reach us. The number that is on the face, +260 968 675 273. It's for the studio. If you want to press the message, please use the one which ends with 883. Let me allow a few people to call on Zoom, on Skype. You can Skype, Mr. Director. Please give the ID to the people so that we may talk. You know this, this issue, Mr. Kamanga, deserves our involvement.
Right.
And this foreigner preference syndrome must be dealt with.
Yes.
People should be able to recognize me as I am, to say, Pastor Chuba can do this. Look at the quality picture, Mr. Kamanga. Even if somebody doesn't want to watch, we can do what SABC can do, what CNN
but you
can
are
do.
on DSTV already.
Of course. We are on DSTV, Topstar, we are on Go TV. But most of all, we are going out there.
Yes.
You know, we are covering the whole world, streaming live 24/7, and we look forward to dropping the signal. So what I'm saying, Mr. Kamanga, what you have done and what you are doing, Zambia should look forward to say, let this Zambian run this. I won't mention the company list I'm sued. Let me avoid. But there are some companies here run by foreigners which are behaving below par. I know that. When I went to take a loan from Zanaco, from one of the banks, Mr. Kamanga, to start the church and to build Kamne TV, I wasn't given. And they said, no, we don't give it to churches. What? I said, please, I'm a Zambian. One day, but story short, in the same month, a foreigner came. He bought a farm in Mkushi. Those who are listening, I don't want to mention the bank. They gave the gentleman $2 million. He just bought second-hand tractors and everything, took to the farm. He fled with that amount, and the bank has not recovered. Me, where can I run to?
You'll be here.
That money, if I'm given, but you'll be pestered. Pastor, you are in this. Pastor, you are in that. Anyway, I believe that one day Mr. Kamanga will rise to the top.
No, we should. I mean, I've been privileged over the years. Like I said,
there is a phone call coming. Hello?
Hello.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Pastor.
Permanent Blessed, who is calling and where you calling us from?
This is Mainga Nkombo calling from Lusaka.
Muyunda?
Mainga.
Mainga.
Mainga?
Nkombo.
Mainga Nkombo.
Mainga Nkombo. Okay, please go ahead.
Okay, good evening, Mr. Kamanga.
Good evening.
Yes. First of all, I just want to appreciate the efforts that are being made at first. You have, I think to my side, there is a tremendous work being done by your administration. Particularly the way you've been starting working with using the team from the foundation. That is recommendable. And many people do not understand that because what you just explained, I think from the beginning, even when you're done for the project, I think I've been really looking forward to that. Then that should be recommended on your side. So then I just hope that in the next coming few months, as we get on other qualifying matches, I believe that you put serious measures to make sure that now we'll be able to show the people that the vision that you are sharing is sharing without. So on that one, it is a commendable job. One thing that I just urge you is just to continue being focused and never look on those people that are always bringing negativity. It's always it's nature to the people to do that. Yeah, it's nature to the people. But once you are focused, the leader that is focused, the structure that you have, then you'll be able to bear and to give results. And people, always, once results are there, they don't support you. Yeah. But when you are building structures, they may not understand. Yes. Then also, let me just touch on the other issue that you mentioned about business days and explain how you started with business. Pastor also has talked about something where Zambians, we are not supporting indigenous Zambians. So I think that is what the government is also recently is to make sure that they begin to look to those people that have the potential to do business in the country. Once you have a lot of business in this land of Zambia, it means you attract a lot of money, foreign exchange, and many more other things. And we will not talk about the dollar issue and so on. The issue is you have money. You look at the contractors, many contractors, they are foreign nationals, and that money that is being paid to those people, they are going to their countries and not in Zambia. So all that, if as Zambians we work on that, then Zambia is a great nation. And I believe myself, I would not want to be great somewhere else, but we do Zambia because I believe it's something in Zambia. So my prayer is that the government begin to recognize those people that have got the potential, like Mr. Kamanga and many more other investors. Yes, so that is my contribution, Mr. Kamanga and Pastor there tonight.
Thank you so much for your contribution. And he has recommended you that please keep on working as you are working on first. Don't be distracted by us people who just like shouting from the terraces. You are an administrator, build the national team. And also the other thing is talked about, of course, is the same cry that the leaders should look at empowering Zambians. You know, today I went to some place and I found this cement plant in the M phase there. There is a cement plant. And one of the Zambians sits on that committee. And when I was asking, because I saw how big it is, we went around that thing, we're going beyond that. And he was so shocked that, I was so shocked rather, when he said, you know, Pastor Chiluba, the money that comes from this plant, this is for the government of China.
Yeah.
It's not for Zambia. It's for the government of China. And the money which is used for administration here, it is a little, but it goes back to China. Now here is a thing where which Zambian or the government can own a cement plant in China, in Mauritius and what? Maybe Dangote. But even Dangote, that money is going back to Nigeria.
Correct.
And this is why we should be proud of our own people. Tribalism, Mr. Kamanga, should not even be mentioned in here.
I'm married to a Bemba, so...
Yeah, and also politics should not be... Let's pick up this call. Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
How are you, sir?
Good. How are you, Pastor?
Permanently blessed and favored by God, and yourself?
I'm blessed too.
What's your name?
I'm Pastor Chanda calling from Kitwe.
Pasco Chanda.
Yes.
Yes?
From Kitwe.
I'm with Mr. Kamanga here. You want to greet him or you ignore him?
Good evening, Mr. Kamanga.
Good evening, Mr. Chanda. How are you?
I'm good.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. It's good that to have Mr. Kamanga on the program, Pastor.
Yeah.
My question will go a little to Mr. Kamanga on the energy sector. You mentioned that you've got a company in Northwestern Province. Now, where you said the government is not being supportive, of which is very true, because looking from the current situation, what is happening in Zambia, where you mentioned that they have got this act, the Electricity Act, which is in place. And I'll just give you a scenario about CEC, what is happening, where they declared the assets for CEC to be as common carriers. Now, in the same vein, the same government, they are saying that they need to support the local investors. If you look at CEC, from my own observation, that is a local investor. Because most of the shareholders are local people. But what the government has done, it's like now they are killing their own baby, which they want to nurture. Now, how do you look at this situation? You being in the energy sector, and with that policy they have put in place, how are they going to support the local investors like you, Mr. Kamanga, if they can suppress their own company, which is CEC at the moment? Because by declaring the assets of CEC as common carrier for ZESCO, but they have left ZESCO with their assets. I don't know whether ZESCO has been also put into that SI 57 where they have declared the asset for CEC to be common carrier. I don't know about ZESCO, because the minister in one statement said even ZESCO, you private sectors, you can use ZESCO assets. Could you please put me in the right if that SI covers ZESCO, not only CEC? Thank you, Mr. Kamanga.
Thank you. Before he comes, Mr. Chanda, let me just correct something. Mr. Kamanga didn't say that the government is not supportive. That he didn't mention. We are just analyzing, and also, I don't know about CEC, but when you look at Mr. Kamanga, what is running, it's the first kind of indigenous. When we say indigenous, it doesn't have foreign legs, one coming from Dubai, another one from Beijing, another one from here, then they form a company. No. This what Mr. Kamanga is running, it's indigenous born. Like he said, it was an idea. So we are talking about Zambians. We are appealing to the government to look at the Zambian government, Zambian companies or projects, so that when Mr. Kamanga is financed, is going to employ Zambians, is going to bring the money will be here. I just wanted to correct that for the sake of correction. Yeah. Go ahead, Mr. Kamanga, or else you could be crucified from here. You say government is not supporting.
Thank you, Mr.
Chanda.
Mr. Chanda, I totally understand where you are coming from, particularly on the issue of CEC. Yes, CEC is a local company. In fact, ZCCMIH has got a 20% shareholding. Mm-hmm. And it's also listed on the Lusaka Stock Exchange. Mm. Now, I think, again, I'll just speak purely. I haven't been privy to what may have happened in the recent times, but I'll speak purely as an industry person. And my take is that CEC and ZESCO had entered into a 20-year bulk supply agreement. In fact, I remember I was at TRB when we gave the license to CEC to be the first private transmission company. Now, over time, what has been clear is that it was a deal which was not fair on the part of ZESCO. That was the bone of contention. So when the agreement came to an end, I think ZESCO were also looking to get to a point where they could get more value out of what they may have seemingly lost out.
Yeah.
Now, as an industry person, my take is that there's nothing wrong. My understanding is this is a tariff issue. ZESCO produce the power, they sell to CEC, who in turn sell to their mining customers. Now, what should really happen is that ZESCO should ask for their price of what they think the power should be. So if it's X, CEC should really add X plus their margin and pass on that cost to their customer. Ideally, that's what should happen. But obviously, I'm not privy to how the transaction was structured, how the discussions failed. But it's also gratifying to note that recently, I think it was last week, the minister announced that ZESCO and CEC have to restart the negotiations, which I think is very good for the sake of investor confidence in the sector. So we hope that going forward, the two parties will come to a win-win position. The issue of open access, yes, there's statutory instrument. The industry also works on the same premise that you need to have a grid code which allows open access. Even as we are thinking about going into generation. But if our generation is far off from our distribution point, we could use the ZESCO network and still pay ZESCO a willing charge for what we are going to produce. But of course, fundamentally for me, as an industry person, is that there's been a bit of a problem in the way we've accommodated the IPPs, because these are independent power producers who are producing, and they are only looking to sell to ZESCO, who unfortunately are not able to cover that cost and recover it from the ultimate consumers. And I think this is why I talked about the importance of government re-looking and realigning the market. Yes, the act has been done, but we need to move to a practical point where we can now say, can we physically now create this, create that, without ZESCO losing its ultimate value? And I think it's possible to do it.
Can I ask a question, Mr. Kamanga?
Yes.
The ZESCO tariffs are so high for us end users because I run this station. On power, we do about 550 kwacha every 2 days to run this station and the church. If we are load shedded on daily basis, we use 600 kwacha on diesel to keep the station running. Now, I feel that it's expensive. The tariffs are too high. Is there a way that, like, I'll speak in a layman's language. I know when we have grown enough maize and Zambia's bumper harvest, we can reduce the price of mealie meal. Is there a way that tariffs can come down?
It is possible, but we also need to accept one thing. I think we came from a background where the tariffs were very low. And any investment in the power sector is obviously a function of where you want to get your tariffs. And I think this is why ERB now has commissioned what they are calling a cost of service study, so that it gives an idea of where each tariff should be. Now, yes, for the domestic customers, the challenge will always be affordability.
Yeah, there is a call. You answer. Hello?
Hello, good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Yes, I'm Dan calling from Kitwe.
Dan calling from Kitwe.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Kamanga.
Good evening, Dan. How are you?
I'm fine. Yes, just two quick questions for you, sir. I'm speaking on behalf of the referees, especially those who are in the rural areas, referees, football referees. Because we normally hear just the seminars you have to add value to the referee so that the game of football can be improved. They are just in there along the line of rail. So we find it difficult as referees who are in rural areas. For instance, I'm in Northwestern. That's why I normally officiate in lower division, to get up to date with the new rules. So instead of just you concentrating along the rail of life, you should also come at places like Sorwezi, we meet there, Kalumbira, or whatsoever those, Kasama. Don't just concentrate on along the line of rail. Because as the referees who are in those areas, we are very behind totally. That's that we hear that the game of football in those rural areas is not yet improved. Because if you can assist us as well to be having the seminars, as those incentives you give to people like in Copper and Saka equally. Then secondly, I'll talk about the fees we are giving. Here in the town, for instance, transport is very easy. But us there, you normally even use bikes to go and officiate them. You know? And the transport is very expensive. And there you go there, you officiate a game, they give you money, which is not even equal to the transport you spend. So I would also look and do that, so that as referees we can be motivated, because most referees, before he is given a game, you consider the amount of money will be given. Then you can create, you find that you have to mushira no qualea. money, but there is given little money which you are putting, which is standard. So if you can increase also the money those clubs they should be giving us, on that area will help us, and the refereeing standard will be improved as well. That's my contribution I had.
Thank you, Dan, and thank you, Mr. Director, and to Camnet TV viewers, you have seen that apology that we are running the news late because of the few issues we had with the breaks. However, we'll allow Mr. Kamanga to answer Dan,
Yes.
and then we'll be concluding. We will bring him back so that he can come and finish this power sector.
Yes, on the issue of referees, again, I'll answer it in the context of what we've done. When we got into office, when we were changing the constitution, we decided for the first time, even these elections we are now conducting, we are going to have a FAS executive member drawn from each one of the 10 provinces. This is a first. In the past, you would have a few from the Copper Belt, a few from Lusaka. But we took a view. Again, looking long term, we want football to be played countrywide. And we want representation to be countrywide. So, in each province, we've now got the opportunity to elect a FAS executive committee member. So the 10 come from the provinces. At the national level, you only elect the president, the vice, and a female member. So the executive is now 13. Now, in each province, there's a mini FAS. So whoever is the chairman is like the president of the province. So what he's talking about are things we've now addressed through the decentralization. So in the province, we should have the secretariat, who are also going to be supported by a referees manager in the province. So football is now decentralized, and we are going on that path because we want to build from the bottom coming up. Before we talk about the national team, we want to make sure, for instance, if we have the under 17, we need to be able to pick from all the 10 provinces. So each province should have an under 17, under 15, under 13, under 19, under 21. So that when we look at the national position, everyone, as long as you're a Zambian, you should have an opportunity to compete. And the only advantage is you should be better than other Zambians. So this is the same concept that we are now working with, where we want football to grow from the grassroots. And for the first time since 2017, as far as we've been able to support all the teams in the provinces, we are giving them a set of jerseys, we are giving them 5 footballs, we are giving them a grant of 5,000 kwacha. That never ever happened. And I think this is all part of our development agenda, that we need to reach out to all parts of the country so that football is not seen to be only along the line of rail. Today, if you go to all these provinces, you'll be amazed. We've really taken football there, all because we've taken a development agenda. But to answer Danny's issue, yes, referees will consider their positions based on their provinces, and will ensure that everyone is catered for within their province, so that we make sure that the value is given to them and they are recognized for the effort they are putting.
Is that
into the game.
the money you was talking about,
Yes.
like transport and
Exactly, because referees are paid based on the distances they travel. So if we can limit their movement within the province, we should be able to contain that. Because we are giving grants to the clubs, we can also work backwards and see what we can do for the referees.
When we were in Cabo in the 70s, Mr. Kamanga, before watching the big boys, Godfrey Chitalu, and there were those curtain raisers,
The reserves.
the reserves who were playing. It used to, from there you would see, you remember Kituka came from there,
Yes.
and all those people you see, oh, these are the guys who
The
are
future.
going to take over.
Yeah.
Why did you cancel that?
Well, it was also a case of circumstances, because you see, all those things happened at the time when we had ZCCM supporting football in a strong way. But I think the coming in of privatization has also created a limit in terms of how much people are putting into football. But to be able to go forward, what we've done ourselves as an executive, we've now, through the technical director's office, created, for instance, under the Super League, we've got what we are calling a youth under 16. So each Super League team now has an under 16 team, and they play competitively. So we are now trying to rebuild the same model of having a senior team and an under 16 team, so that they can be a progression of the young players into the senior team. So we are already embarking on that. In fact, we are grateful that we've signed an MOU with Barcelona Academy, because that's where these under 16 competitions are taking place. But all the teams in Lusaka have signed up to that league, and we are now going to replicate it on the Copper Belt in the next coming season. So in due course, we will have the senior team backed by an academy and behind it.
Well, time does not permit me, Mr. Kamanga. You have a lot to offload, but let me summarize if I can. In terms of funds, Zambia needs to give this man a chance. I'm not lobbying for him. You know, I've been a pastor since 1982. If only you can understand that this Camnet TV is coming in the last 3 years and the church in the last 10 years. It's not an easy thing to build a national dream. Just saying, I think as Zambians, let's work together and bring something productive. And from the business angle, I want to say that what you brought, it is so loaded that you don't need money to start a business.
Correct.
You need an idea. What you said, my friend told me in America, he said, you know, Pastor, in America it's easy to get a loan because Americans don't support a person, they support ideas.
Correct.
Once you have a good idea, if you can build a plane, you can do this, they will give you money. But here in Zambia, I'm glad you are not a banker, but you should own one. Here in Zambia, no matter how much dreams you can have, even an idea, when you go to the bank, the first thing is bring collateral. Ladies and gentlemen, where would I get the collateral from?
In fact, we didn't talk about that, but you'll be surprised that, as I said, the first loan we got was from the Dutch Development Bank from Holland.
Not here.
Not here. And they said, fine, we'll give you the $5 million you're looking for, but can you also bring $1 million as part of your contribution? And we had to create all sorts of structures. Fortunately, we had a good relationship with Finance Bank, but up to this day, I keep that loan agreement. I've kept it in my drawer, simply because the conditions which were in there were onerous. But fortunately, we were able to get the 1 million. In fact, they gave us 700,000. The other 300 came from Standard Chartered. But I had to put up the collateral as usual. Bring your house, bring this, bring that. And of course, you've now got a Bemba shouting in your ear, you can't do this.
Not a Bemba, a consultant.
Okay, Minister of Home Affairs. Now, obviously, we went past that. But it was a very important lesson. And I think this is why, from where I stand, I think nowadays I do free consultancy. So these young entrepreneurs who've got ideas, I'm always willing to help. And I think in due course, I want to retire and go and teach at the university so that I can share my experiences. But certainly, what we need to do is encourage Zambians that it's the idea which starts. The money comes much later.
Next week on National Matters on Monday, I have Dr. Habazoka.
Okay. From EAZ.
Yes, we'll be talking on wealth creation. Can we have a follow-up with him that other week you come and teach the nation?
No problem.
Please, because I believe that we were born for greatness. This time, we're not going to talk about FAS. Now people know who Mr. Kamanga is, especially Camnet TV viewers. But if you can help our nation to let the people know that we can make it. You know,
in fact, we've got so much potential. What we lack is obviously the mentorship. Remember what I said, and I gave credit to Mr. Lumbwe. And I'll never forget, every time when I'm asked, it's because there's somebody who did something. But we need to create this society as a meritorious society. We should always set very high standards for the country. And I think we really need to build from the base. And this is where I'm very happy to give even free advice. I think nowadays I've become lazy as a consultant, but I think I'm more than willing. And those days I used to charge quite a lot.
I know.
But now I'm ready. If somebody has got an idea, it's something that...
But don't promote laziness in us. Charge us even if it's 10 kwacha.
No, but
So
I'll still charge and take it to church.
Okay. Camnet TV viewers, I've been your host on National Matters, and my guest was Mr. Andrew Kamanga, a successful businessman and a successful FAS president. But above all, is a successful husband with 4 children.
Thank you.
That's where success begins from. Keep watching Camnet TV. And remember, Camnet TV is not just another channel. We'll see you on Monday by God's grace. Bye-bye.